Hello, and welcome back to Your Epic Life podcast. This week, we are going to be talking about a subject that is so near and dear to my heart, and I think sometimes makes people want to run the other way when they don't really understand it. But what we're talking about is your childhood story and learning how the things you experienced in your childhood and what you thought about them can actually be affecting how you feel about things today, your relationship with other people, your triggers, right? Big trigger word, but triggers are basically the emotional reactions you have to something that you don't necessarily always understand where they're coming from. And very often that comes from what you experienced as a child. So, just as a disclaimer right now, this is not blame your mom, blame your dad, blame your family conversation here at all, because what we experienced as a child got processed through the brain of a child and made the truth or made it mean something that it may or may not have ever meant. So, I'm going to explain to you, like, really quickly, an example of what that would be. Um, just last week, I had a client who was leaving me a Voxer message with a struggle that she was having with her child. And in it, she said the sentence, which she didn't even realize. She said the sentence, her daughter had made a mistake, and then 10 minutes later, I made the same mistake. And she was angry about that. And she said the sentence, we should never make the same mistake twice. We should never make the same mistake twice. And I was like, that's an interesting belief. Like, it didn't even occur to her at all. And I checked back and I like literally quoted her. I'm like, we should never make the same mistake twice. Like, where did you learn that? Like, what does that mean to you? And where does that thought come from? Because I don't know about you, but I make the same mistake literally on a daily basis. And if I held myself to a standard of never making the same mistake twice when it came to how I was going to choose to speak to somebody about something I was going to get upset about life in general, life would be hard. I would have a hard time accepting my child's mistakes if I believed that we should never make the same mistake twice. And this particular client could reflect back and she's like, come to think of it, like, I am really hard on myself when I make mistakes. And I remember my father would always get angry if I made the same mistake twice. So it's not something we were supposed to do. Now, whether or not his anger was related to that or her own translation of the story is a different thing. But if you, as a child, experienced getting in trouble for making the same mistake twice, you will start to unconsciously take that story and that belief and move it into your reality now.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that you've also really taught me that I love, and you've said this, but just saying it again, because I feel like this is just the biggest thing for me is it's not even necessarily what happened in your
Yeah.
childhood. It's the narrative that you created around it. And it's not to say what's true and what's not true. It's normal that everyone in your life can be at the same event and experience it differently. But it's like, what programming do you have? One of mine is just feeling like I can't trust in others and doing things myself because I can't
Mhm.
trust anyone else to do the job and to get it done. Um, and that just comes from a variety of things. And it doesn't mean that I didn't have people that were there for me in my life, but that's a huge story that I created that affects my relationships today hugely. And yeah, being aware of these is so helpful because sometimes like you had said, like your client, like you don't even realize you're carrying these with
Mhm.
you. So being aware can help you get curious of like, wait, like what beliefs do I carry with me that I maybe want to dismantle? And maybe
Mhm.
there's some where you're like, "Ooh, actually, you know what? That is something I'm keeping with me. It serves me or whatever." But just to be able to get curious about
Yeah.
those.
And the reason why this is so important is because when we have these beliefs that we don't understand, like my big one, the first one that I first realized for me was the reason why I was yelling at my kids a decade ago for not putting on their pajamas was nobody ever listens to me. I'm not important and I have to do everything by myself. I'm not important and I have to do everything by myself. So my children were the first ones that it started like, why am I yelling at them? And I was actually willing to look at that. I believed this so deeply ingrained in my head that I created a reality that proved it to me, because that's the way our brain works, right? So we're not going to go totally into neuroscience here, but there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, and it takes all the information in the world that there's just too much for us to process and shows us what is important to us. One of my favorite ways of like testing this is if I look at you and I say, close your eyes, think of the color orange, decide that you're going to look around and see all the things that are orange. If you start looking around your space, you're going to see things and notice things that you would not have otherwise noticed because orange things wasn't important, right? You consciously get to change that. So when I believed that I had to do everything by myself, the world showed me all the things that I had to do by myself. Now, it is not, again, because I did not matter. I mattered to my parents. I mattered to my family. I translated a story into my feelings don't matter. I have to take care of everybody else's feelings. And then I literally stopped sharing my feelings. I didn't even give people a chance because I had already decided that I don't matter. So these stories that are usually created before 6 or 7 from experiences are often the reason why we are struggling with certain issues in our life, with relationships, with different topics. Just being willing to check in with yourself and be like, I'm not feeling good about this right now. What am I believing? Like, what is going on in my head right now?
And this is something we all have. Like, there's no way around it. And it's not like, oh,
Mm-mm.
we have to find them all and fix them all or anything. In fact, sometimes, I don't know, do I dare say that they're always going to be a little part of us, but we just,
Mm.
but being aware and noticing, and I feel like there's times now where I can be like, oh, I'm telling myself that story again.
Mhm.
And sometimes I like to do this as like kind of a fun game of like, oh yeah, I remember poor me has to do everything themselves, can't depend on anyone. And then I'll kind of start to think about actually, what can I depend on people, and like start kind of showing myself
Yeah.
like, oh, there are times like, look at this, like my husband fills my car up for gas for me all the time without me even asking or noticing, which is amazing because I'm oblivious a lot of times to the
Mhm.
gas meter. um, but yeah, like I think we can sometimes get stuck of like, oh, there's parts of me that I have to fix. And it's like we all have this and
Yeah.
we
And
just get to get curious.
yeah, I dare say that, I mean, there'll probably always be a part of us. And it's that curiosity of like, wait, I'm not feeling good right now. I know that I have to do everything myself. My feelings don't matter and I have to do everything myself story. A decade since I realized it still comes up. And being able to recognize it and be like, oh, empathy for myself. That is my story. And like you said, picking a different belief that you actually can still believe as well and be like, wait a minute, what else is true? Like, I am supported and I matter. And where's my evidence that I am supported and that I matter? And if it's one that you're really struggling with, if you're like, this is really negatively affecting my life in some way, then you do the work to change it. Write the sign that says, I am supported and I matter. Journal every day. Like, how was I supported today? Look for the reasons why. That's where the work comes in. It's not because you're ever going to get rid of that other story that's lingering, because when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're worried about something, you go back to that like unconscious childhood brain that's like, but this is what it means. Being fully resourced means you get to turn it around though and get to say, wait, check myself.
Yes. And I love that you brought up that empathy for yourself because I think it's the piece why we want to be aware of these is so that we can start having some self compassion. So instead of like, oh, why do I do this? Or, oh, why does my family make me feel this way? Right? Nobody makes us feel a certain way, but you can really start to resent them, or all these things, when instead we can go to a place of self-compassion of, oh yeah, when I was younger, I
Yeah.
believed this to be true. And a lot of, honestly, like meditation exercises or things of like healing your young inner child are you as an adult now going back to that time and being that caring adult, being able to
Mhm.
see like what was going on in your life through adult lens instead of child's eyes, and giving you whatever you needed at that time. So just that
Yeah.
self-compassion of, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. I'm feeling alone right now. I'm feeling like I don't matter. I can't trust anyone right now. Self compassion is seriously one of the most amazing tools to develop, to just be kinder to ourselves, because the things that we heard or the things that really bother us are really a lot of times ways that we're beating ourselves up inside.
Mhm. Yeah, and you deserve um, love from yourself. You deserve to be able to say, I mean, it just makes sense that I made that story up. Like I can see, and being able to recognize it from the childhood story, being willing to be like, where did this first have this feeling? Um, the reason why that's important is because as an adult, you might be able to say, oh, I can see how 5-year-old me made that decision. And often you can also say, and I can see that it wasn't even true. Like, I can see that it was never really true that I did not matter, that I did not matter. And our brains are funny things. And I get to love myself through the like feeling like I don't matter now. And I get to recognize often when we're regressing into those childhood beliefs, we also sound a little bit more childlike as well in our demeanor. You actually are listening to yourself. But yeah, compassion. Like you are a human who has beliefs, many of which serve you amazingly well, and many of which don't. And even finding the gratitude for the ones that you're recognizing are like no longer serving you and being like, wait, there was a time when that did serve me. I mean, there's a lot of benefits I got out of thinking I had to do everything on my own because I am very self-sufficient and resilient. There are benefits to it. And when it just started to feel a little bit overwhelming, it was time to dial it back and say, where did this come from? And I don't yell at my kids anymore because I know that them not listening to me is usually because we did not have a clear agreement and there was a lack of connection. And it is not because they think I don't matter. It was never because they consciously thought that I don't matter.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Oh, I love all of that. Also, this just kind of brings me back to like creating an epic life. And part of this is just like feeling empowered as well.
Mhm.
For me, um, that awareness of, oh, okay, makes sense that I'm feeling
Yeah.
like this because of this. And I have the power, to shift this and to, work through this
Yeah.
now is really empowering. And
It
to
is.
know, to be aware of this piece, to know that, yes, we can't control our emotions. Emotions are part of the human experience, but that we can control our reactions and think about this. This is just a really great step
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. And this is just the first awareness in several topics that are going to be coming up of recognizing what we're actually thinking and what we're feeling. And it is huge, but being willing to take a step back and look at your childhood story and say, what did I experience? Now, I want to throw a disclaimer in here. If it is too hard to look back at your childhood story, if you are recognizing that it is causing you more anxiety and stress, or it is feeling traumatic, then please stop. Then please talk to a professional. Please do not dive into topics that are leaving you feeling bad instead of feeling curious and just recognizing. We are, for our action step, going to be including a link to a childhood story questionnaire that's going to ask a lot of questions about what you experienced as a child. Like I said, if you start doing it and you're like, oh my goodness, you don't understand. My childhood was trauma with a capital T. Do not proceed further if it's hurting you more than helping you. But
Absolutely. That's
that,
so important. And
yeah,
there are amazing tools out there that therapists have now that really can dig into some of that stuff in a different way than maybe has been in the past.
yeah,
There's internal family systems, there's EMDR, there's just all sorts of things. So just know that, there's professionals out there and there's different tools to find what works for you.
yes, and that you deserve and have every right to feel good now and to heal whatever needs to be healed. That being said, check out the questionnaire on your childhood story and start actually getting curious about how you felt as a child and how that can possibly be affecting things today that may or may not be feeling amazing for you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Take care.